Picture this. It's June 17th, 2026.
Okay.
The time is exactly 4:32 p.m. And we are looking at a cafe in the Khandwa area of Pune.
Right.
A young couple has just walked in. And, to anyone sitting at the next table, this looks like the most mundane, ordinary date imaginable. The guy goes to the counter, smiles, orders some food.
Like a normal afternoon.
Exactly. The girl is just sitting at an outdoor table. But if you look closer, the illusion starts to crack. I mean, it's 33 degrees Celsius out there,
Yeah.
blistering heat.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's intense.
Right. But they chose to sit outside in the direct sun, as far away from the other patrons as possible. The girl is constantly wiping sweat from her face.
She's completely uncomfortable.
Yeah, and she is totally emotionless, just staring blankly at the table. They aren't holding hands, they aren't laughing.
Because they're not on a date.
No. They are sitting at that table, finalizing the premeditated murder of her fiancé. You have Ketan Agarwal. He's 26 years old, and by all accounts, just a brilliant guy.
A real catch, essentially.
Totally. He's got a BBA from Symbiosis, a master's degree from Babson College in the U.S. He comes back to India and steps right into the role of chief marketing officer for his family's real estate business, Success Group.
So he's got the stability, the wealth, the education.
He is the golden boy, building a very stable, lucrative future.
And on the other side, you have Siya Goyal.
Yeah.
She's 20 years old, coming from a very wealthy Pune family that deals in dry fruits and spices.
So socially, they match up perfectly.
Exactly. From a purely societal standpoint, the families have identical social standings. And perhaps more importantly in these scenarios, they have a 35-year connection.
Wow, 35 years.
Yeah. Sia's aunt, Rena Middle, and her husband, Narendra, are relatives of Ketan's father. They acted as the mediators, essentially brokering this match.
Like guarantors, almost.
Right. And they continually promised Ketan's family that Siya was this calm, simple, traditionally minded girl.
And the broader community was just obsessed with this union. I mean, social media was completely flooded with rumors about the scale of this wedding.
Oh, the rumors were out of control.
People were passing around stories that it was going to be like a 17 crore rupee extravaganza, complete with chartered flights, flying guests all over the country.
Which is where we need to step in and separate the internet sensationalism from the actual facts.
Right, what actually happened.
The sources are very clear on the financials. The budget was actually mapped out at around 3 to 4 crore rupees for a November 2026 wedding in Udaipur.
Okay, still a big wedding, but not 17 crore.
Exactly. And the guests were going to be taking regular commercial flights from Pune to Ahmedabad, not, a fleet of private jets.
Makes sense.
It is crucial to ground ourselves in the reality of the situation, because the internet has a terrible habit of turning real, complex human tragedies into exaggerated plastic spectacles.
That's a really great point, because the actual reality going on behind the scenes is far more compelling than any of the rumors anyway.
Absolutely.
The reality is that Ketan was fully, genuinely invested. He is throwing early birthday surprises for Siya a whole month in advance.
He was trying so hard.
He really was. He is deeply in love, arguably for the very first time in his life. He's decorating cars, buying flowers, doing everything a person does when they think they found their life partner.
But Siya's family, they're operating on a complete fabrication.
Completely. They sold Ketan's family on this image of a simple BCom student who spent her time studying and didn't party.
When the truth was the exact opposite. Siya had actually failed the 12th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, she was running a small, informal bakery business from home, and she was heavily embedded in the nightlife scene.
Just a totally different life.
She had been a regular at nightclubs and had been drinking since she was 16 years old, starting on a family trip to Singapore.
The contrast is staggering. Ketan is operating under the assumption of a partnership based on shared traditional values, while Siya's family is actively concealing her entire lifestyle.
It's a massive deception.
If Siya's parents knew about her secret life, why force this merger so aggressively? I mean, why push her into a highly visible marriage with a prominent family where her lifestyle is inevitably going to be exposed?
Panic. Pure parental panic.
Really?
Yeah. Siya's parents had recently discovered a massive, unacceptable secret. Siya was in a serious, long-term relationship with a man named Ketan Chaudhary.
Ah, okay. The secret boyfriend.
Exactly. For parents who feel they are completely losing control of a rebellious daughter, a wealthy, highly educated, incredibly stable man like Ketan, doesn't look like a risk to them.
He looks like a fix.
He looks like a fix. They genuinely believed that tying her to a prestigious joint family would act as an anchor, automatically extinguishing her secret life and forcing her to conform to the role of a traditional wife.
But if you try to force a merger on a rebellious subsidiary, they don't just comply, they burn the documents.
Precisely.
And this forced fix acted as an absolute accelerant. So let's look at Chetan Chaudhary. He's a BBA graduate. His family owns a dry fruits shop not far from Sia's father's shop.
So they ran in similar geographic circles, at least.
Right. And he actually met Siya through her own brother, Sahil, at a Diwali party back in 2025. And this wasn't just some passing fling that she was ready to give up.
They were very committed.
They were deeply entangled, they were going to cricket matches together, and they even orchestrated a secret 2-day trip to Jodhpur in December of 2025.
Siya was a 20-year-old, completely accustomed to clubs, independence, and living on her own terms.
Right.
Suddenly, she's being mandated to marry Ketan, who lives in a deeply traditional joint family of nearly 20 people.
So in her mind, that house isn't a prestigious family home, it's a 20-person maximum security prison.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological mechanism at play here is projection. Ketan lost his humanity in her eyes.
What do you mean?
He ceased to be a loving, empathetic partner and simply became the physical manifestation of the cage her parents were building around her.
Which leads to some incredibly erratic behavior. I mean, look at what happens on June 6th. Ketan, Siya, and their siblings are scheduled to fly to Bali for a pre-wedding shoot.
A huge trip.
Yeah, so they are driving to the Mumbai airport at around 11 p.m. They pull over at a food mall near the Kolhapur Toll Plaza.
To grab a bite or something.
Yes. Right, but Siya makes a mundane excuse, sneaks back to the car alone, opens their travel pouch, steals Ketan's passport, walks into a Starbucks washroom, tears the passport into tiny pieces, and flushes it down the toilet.
It's just wild.
She completely sabotages an international trip just to avoid getting on a plane with him.
It is a severe escalation of property destruction, specifically designed to avoid intimacy and the progression of the commitment.
But wait, I have to stop you here, because I'm looking at this and I'm sure you listening are thinking the exact same thing. I just don't get why being told to marry someone wealthy turns you into an arsonist of your own life.
It defies logic.
She had a way out. Ketan was sensible, he was educated. Why jump to destroying passports and plotting murders instead of just sending a text message saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm in love with someone else, we have to call this off"?
Because you are applying rational empathy to a situation governed by extreme moral bankruptcy. Chetan actually suggested exactly what you just proposed. When Siya first brought up the idea of getting rid of Ketan, Chetan said, "Let's just elope. Let's run away together."
And what did she say?
Siya flatly refused.
Wait, really? Why?
Because she wanted to maintain her luxurious lifestyle.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she explicitly claimed that running away would permanently destroy her family's reputation, which would mean being cut off from the family wealth.
Oh, wow.
She didn't want to be the runaway bride who lost her luxury. She wanted to be the tragic, wealthy widow. She was perfectly willing to use Ketan's life as a disposable currency to buy her own comfort.
Wow, okay. That's chilling. But destroying a travel document only delays the inevitable. Ketan is still in Pune, the wedding is still approaching.
Exactly, the pressure's still there.
So how does her brain bridge the gap between petty vandalism in a Starbucks bathroom and actual physical violence? That brings us to June 14th. This is the trial run.
The first attempt.
Right. Siya insists that Ketan take her to Lohagad Fort, a popular, rugged trekking spot outside Pune. She maneuvers him right to the edge of a deep valley, and when she sees her opening, she pushes him.
But she miscalculates.
She does. She doesn't push hard enough. Ketan goes over the edge, but he manages to grab a bush growing out of the hillside, and he miraculously pulls himself back up.
And the behavioral pivot that happens in the very next second is what makes this case a psychological anomaly.
What happens?
The absolute microsecond Siya realizes Ketan has survived the fall, she screams, "Snake! Snake!"
You're kidding!
No. She throws her arms around him, pulls him into a tight embrace, and tells him she aggressively shoved him to save him from a venomous snake bite. She transitions from an attacker to a rescuer seamlessly, and Ketan's brain, which is desperately seeking a logical, non-threatening explanation for the betrayal of a loved one, readily accepts the false narrative of the snake.
But that first attempt failing creates a logistical nightmare for her. She realizes she can't physically overpower him herself.
Right, she needs help.
She needs Chetan to do the physical act. But how do you manipulate a guy into returning to the exact cliff edge where he almost died just 4 days earlier?
You have to get creative.
So on June 15th, Siya introduces Chetan to Ketan over a phone call, framing him as just a mutual friend. Chetan then calls Ketan directly and says, "Hey man, we want to throw a massive surprise birthday party for Siya at the fort on the 18th. Just bring her up there, we'll handle the catering and the rest."
It's a trap perfectly calibrated to exploit Ketan's personality.
Because he loves surprising her.
Exactly. He loves making her happy. He's been throwing her early birthday surprises all month. Of course, he agrees to facilitate a surprise party.
Which loops us right back to our opening hook. June 17th, the cafe in Khandwa, 4:32 p.m., the afternoon before the fake party.
Right.
They're sitting in that 33-degree heat, avoiding the indoor air conditioning, keeping their phones face down on the table.
What you are seeing in that footage is the physical manifestation of anticipatory stress.
So her body is betraying her.
Exactly. The body is preparing for a massive, violent event, but the social setting of a public cafe demands total stillness.
It's like a driver who is slamming their foot on the brakes to keep the car perfectly still at a red light, but simultaneously pressing the accelerator to the floor.
That is a great visual.
The sympathetic nervous system is redlining the engine, pumping adrenaline for the murder, but the brain is demanding the body look calm, and all that intense physiological friction is just violently leaking out as sweat and a completely blank stare.
That is an incredibly accurate analogy. The internal pressure is immense because the abstract plan is finally crystallizing into irreversible reality.
And the very next morning, that internal friction gives way to cold, calculated execution. Let's walk through the timeline of June 18th.
Yeah.
Ketan leaves his house at 8:20 a.m. He thinks he's orchestrating a romantic birthday surprise.
Poor guy.
Siya takes a separate cab to meet him on the expressway. Meanwhile, Chetan is riding a Jupiter scooter toward the fort. When Ketan and Siya start their trek up the mountain, Chetan falls in line right behind them.
And Ketan has never seen Chetan.
Right. Ketan doesn't know what Chetan looks like in person, so he has absolutely no idea the man walking 10 feet behind him is his executioner.
And Siya is quietly orchestrating the entire movement. She is using subtle hand signals behind Ketan's back to communicate with Chetan, pausing him, waving him forward, perfectly controlling the spacing.
They finally reach the Lohagad viewpoint. Siya tells Ketan to stand right at the absolute edge of the valley and look out at the horizon so she can take a candid photo of him from behind.
The setup.
Then she sits down on the ground. That was the secret code they agreed on at the cafe. The exact moment she sits, Chetan rushes in from behind, shoves Ketan violently into the valley, and Ketan is killed instantly.
And while Siya instantly begins her performance as the devastated, grieving fiancé, calling Ketan's family in hysterical tears, claiming he tragically slipped while posing for a photo, Chetan is executing a highly sophisticated digital misdirection.
He had a whole plan for his phone, right?
Yeah. He deliberately left his own mobile phone back at his shop and market yard. He kept the internet completely switched off from 7:00 a.m. to 5:40 p.m.
That's very specific.
And he explicitly instructed his employee, a man named Niraj, to stay at the shop and answer any incoming calls on that device.
And he didn't stop there. He rode a scooter instead of driving a car specifically to avoid the license plate cameras at the Talagan toll plaza.
Right.
When he got to the fort, he blatantly refused to buy an entry ticket because he knew the ticket window had a CCTV camera pointed perfectly at face level. He kept his hoodie pulled down tight over his face, despite the sweltering heat.
He was trying to be a ghost.
I have to admit, if you look at the digital footprint, this looks impenetrable. Chetan isn't just invisible. His phone records verifiably place him miles away at work, and witnesses can vouch someone was answering calls at his shop. So how does a fortress of an alibi like that actually crack?
It cracks because they fail to account for human intuition. And they underestimated the staggering cognitive toll of maintaining a fabricated reality.
Enter Sanjana, Ketan's sister.
Right.
The family is entirely devastated. At first, they accept the tragic accident narrative. But Sanjana remembers a famous news story, the Sonam Raja Raghuvanshi case, which also initially presented as an accidental fall, and her intuition starts screaming that something is deeply wrong.
She knew her brother.
Exactly. Ketan was an experienced trekker. He didn't just slip off a mountain. So she decides to interrogate Siya directly.
Which
So when Sanjana starts hitting her with rapid-fire, granular questions like who was standing exactly where, what was his footing like, how exactly did he fall, the system crashes.
Exactly. The cognitive load becomes too heavy, the story fractures, her details start shifting, her facial expressions lose sync with the grief in her words.
She couldn't keep it up.
Sanjana goes straight to her father and says, there's something fundamentally wrong with her story.
And that human suspicion is the single thread that unravels the entire digital fortress. The police get involved, they pull the CCTV from the fort, and spot the bizarre, hooded figure trailing the couple in the heat.
The ghost wasn't completely invisible.
No. Then they pull Sia's call detail records, and the digital breadcrumbs expose a massive hidden life. They find 2,004 calls between Siya and Chetan over just a few months.
That is excessive.
That's 238 hours of conversation, an average of 8 to 10 calls every single day.
So immediately the police know Chetan is the secret boyfriend. They look at his phone records. The tower pings say he was at the market yard shop.
Right, his alibi.
But they interrogate the shop workers and realize the employee, Niraj, was the one answering the calls.
So what do the police do? They track Niraj's phone location, and boom! The cellular tower data shows Niraj's phone wasn't at Market Yard. It was pinging right at Lohagad Fort.
Wow.
Chetan took his employee's phone to communicate with Siya without leaving a trace of his own phone number. The perfect digital alibi collapses in on itself.
The battle then moves from the mountains of Pune to the courtroom. Once arrested, both of them initially confess, but then the legal strategy shifts. Siya's defense lawyer steps in and tries to change the narrative entirely.
Wait, so her defense lawyer steps in and says, no one actually saw the push? Is that a real legal loophole? If you commit a crime in the middle of nowhere without a physical eyewitness, can you just say, no eyewitnesses, no murder, and get away with it?
They absolutely tried to argue that, but it relies on a fundamental misunderstanding of the law.
Oh, really?
Yes. Under the new Paratya Saksha Adhiniyam 2023, which recently replaced the old Indian Evidence Act, the presence of an eyewitness is not mandatory for a conviction.
So you don't need a smoking gun or an eyewitness if you have a tight enough web of digital footprints.
Precisely. If the prosecution can present an unbroken chain of circumstantial evidence, the call detail records proving the affair, the CCTV footage showing the hooded figure stalking the victim, the cell tower pings destroying the alibi, the recovered search history on her phone researching murder methods, that creates a scenario where no other plausible explanation exists except their guilt.
The puzzle pieces all fit together.
Yes. And this legal principle is firmly backed by major Supreme Court precedents, specifically the landmark Sharad Burdichan Sarda case. A complete logical chain of circumstantial evidence is entirely legally binding. But this case proves that relying on a 35-year family connection or the word of an aunt is not enough.
It can be totally fabricated.
Exactly. When bringing someone into your life, personal verification is not paranoia. It is a necessity.
Okay, we've covered immense ground today. We've gone from a trusting fiancé who was just trying to plan a romantic birthday surprise to a chilling conspiracy born out of intense psychological reactance and executed with ice-cold calculation.
A really tragic sequence of events.
We've explored how the desperate desire for luxury without consequences turned a young woman and her secret boyfriend into architects of a murder.
And the most vital takeaway for you listening right now is the power of trusting your intuition. Ketan's sister, Sanjana, didn't have access to CCTV footage or cellular tower pings when she started asking questions. She just had a gut feeling that the narrative didn't fit the reality. In a world increasingly saturated with deception, that raw human instinct is your absolute first line of defense. Never let the comforting, pacifying words of a mediator drown out your own internal alarm bells.
Which leaves me with one final thought I want you to mull over as you go about your day. We live in an era where anyone can orchestrate the perfect digital alibi. We can spoof GPS coordinates, we can manipulate timestamps, and we can easily hide behind perfectly curated social media profiles that show nothing but bright smiles and captions about finding our soulmates.
Right.
But isn't it absolutely terrifying that despite all of our advancements in technology, the most advanced, reliable lie detector we possess is still just the lingering, unexplainable suspicion of another human being? If our digital footprints can be so easily forged, how do we ever truly verify the soul of the people we invite to sit across from us at the cafe table?
It is the defining question of the digital age. We can track a phone anywhere on Earth, but we still cannot track an intention.
Keep your eyes open and trust your gut. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.